Aren't art schools great? Yeah, I think every art school in the entire world, be it the Bar House or be it your local tech down the road, should have a paper mache sculpture of the Statue of Liberty outside its front door. And I think on the base of that statue there should be a plaque. And I think the plaque should read, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." That should be in front of every art school in the entire world. I think because art schools, whether they be the Bar House or your local tech, all have one thing in common. They all will prima facie accept virtually any behaviour or activity on its face value. And this art school is no different. And all these various activities and behaviours have, over time, left their marks on the fabric of the school. So these marks that I can see give me great pleasure as I move through the school. And I advise you all to take a trip over to print media and take the staircase down from the upper level of print media to the lower level and look through the windows and you'll see the outer brick wall of the photomedia darkrooms. And on those walls, that wall, you'll see 3 bolts and a little bit of a pulley system. And that's been painted over with generations of paint. What were those bolts there for? They were there because once for a performance festival, John Reed hung himself upside down from those bolts in a performance about the disappeared. He was naked, I seem to remember, from the waist up, and he hung there suspended by a hidden abseiling device. And there's been other memories of these kinds of happy hours. And happy hours used to be quite large. Before my time, there was a happy hour here in midwinter, and the head of sculpture at the time, David, got into an argument with a student. The student might have been from the leather workshop. Yes, we had leather there. And the student suddenly stabbed David in the chest with a leather tool. He had to be taken to hospital. He only had one lung at the time, the poor dear, and he had to have his chest stitched up. So these stories are the remnants of all these activities and behaviours that the art school has encouraged. I'm off.
Now, it didn't occur to us that there was anything wrong in this. People used to walk over Parliament House all the time, and the dress was only cardboard, of course, after all. It was a bag lady, box lady claiming her stake in the country. What could be more patriotic than that? And they were Australian cabbages. So I was making a determined dash for the flagpole when the security guard swaggered over to have a chat. He didn't seem amused or angry. He asked me who I was and what I was doing. "Oh," I said, "I'm just an art school student and I'm going up to the flagpole. Is that okay?" Apparently it wasn't. So I apologised for not knowing this and I waddled down the hill again, partly relieved I didn't have to walk the rest of the way. By the time I got to the bottom of the hill, more security guards had asked my friends who they were. They had all our details, they knew who we were, what year we were in at art school, and our grades. Not realising what a serious threat we really were to society, they let us go.
I lost my bag after many drunken nights. One morning I got a message to go to the police station. I went, was escorted out the back into their office, told to sit down and read the account by an old man who thought his house was being broken into by me in the early hours of the said morning. He confronted me and I threw my bag at him and leapt over a fence somewhere in Turner, making yet again another escape. As I had to believe his account, as I typically had no recollection of the events, and the police also had my bag. I was simply trying to get to a party that night, and I got the wrong house, but the right street. I borrowed $100 to see her and yelled abuse her. She sat and listened reluctantly, and she said a few words and brought me to tears. I went to university counselling, but continued my rampage of self-destruction. It all ended when I ended up pleading in front of a judge that I was emotionally unstable, and that is why I was drink driving on Belconnen Way at 6:30 in the morning.
In Canberra, there was a horse that I'd found on a friend's farm that when I was bringing it into town, it actually fell apart because it was so rotten, and it was assembled in 2 sections. The horse was positioned in this big white room, and it had little microphones kind of amplifying the sound as people walk around it and the internal sounds of the horse. That was the big problem, I think, with the media. They thought there was animal sacrifice involved, but anyone that actually looked at the horse would realise that it had been rotting in a field for about, 6 months.
Some witches had complained that they were being maligned by being connected with the dead horse. This headline was, "Satanic Art. Witches Hit Back." The senator stood up, and some of the things that they said was that the use of a disused building was partially an effort to emphasise the lack of space for more independent art exhibits and the general lack of accessible venues for artworks and artists. The last letter I'll mention comes from someone in the Canberra Times, and it says, "Art lovers everywhere will be gladdened by the news that the arrangement of horse parts and other meaningful items found in Downer was indeed an artwork by more than 15 artists, challenging, among other things, institutionalised exhibition practice." The writer contested a perspective on the people who'd done this and said that the art school students have created something far, far more attractive than many of the exhibits on permanent display in our National Gallery, whose director, Mrs. Churcher, should snap it up at once.
Good evening. My name's Gordon Bull. I'm the current head of the School of Art. I've been the head of the School of Art for 6 years. Before I became the head of the school, I was the head of art theory, and one day we hosted Stellark, the great Australian performance artist. I was hosting him, I picked him up, I spent a couple of hours with him and introduced him and so on. It was actually the 3rd time he'd performed in our lecture theatre. And the first 2 times he'd actually done suspensions. On this occasion, well, he'd stopped doing suspensions. I don't think he had anywhere else to puncture his body. On the occasion that I hosted him, he demonstrated his bionic arm and screened a video of a colonoscopy taken on his own person, which was, really terrific. But I was interested in the suspensions because his suspensions involved his body being punctured by large steel hooks, and then he would be elevated into the air. So this happened twice in our lecture theatre. And so he told me about them, and, "Oh, no, it doesn't really hurt," and, "No, it's okay." And I get people to help me. And both times when I was here, I had teams of students to assist me. And what did they have to do? They had to put the hooks in. And the reason you need 2 teams of students is the ones who put the hooks in can never take the hooks out because they're so repulsed by the experience that you need a putting in team and a pulling out team. So I was happy with the colonoscopy, and that's my Stellark story. Hey, look, it's been such a fantastic evening. I've done my rap with the W, and thanks to you all for coming. It's been so great. Cheese.